Thank you. Thank you. So today we are here with Jonathan Levy, who is a UX designer. And he just read this really interesting book that we're going to be talking about today called Articulating Design Decisions. It's had quite the impact lately. Everyone seems to be reading it. And we wanted to hear a little bit from a UX designer about his thoughts and what he liked about it. So Jonathan, thank you very much for being with us today. Thanks, Tom. Happy to be here. Great, great. So, first question. What did you think of the book? Did it speak to you? Tom, it really did speak to me. I've been in design for a number of years, and at the organizations I've been at, design has never been number one priority, right? Or UX design has never been number one priority. So it's been about how to convey meaning in the decisions that we make to those outside of design and UX. How do we make our decisions resonate with those and help them understand the importance of what it is that we do and why do we do it? That answer of a decision, why do we do something? Oh, it looks cool, or oh, it's the right thing to do. That doesn't really land with someone that's outside of design or UX. They have their own priorities, and we need to understand what those are and how to connect with them in order to reach a common goal that we're trying to obtain in our everyday job. So you think this helped you or will help you in your communication with others? Yes, Tom, I think not only will it help me communicate with others, but more specifically those that aren't designers. One of the problems I think with design is with how approachable it is. It's easy for those that we work with to jump on the kind of bandwagon and say I don't like this interface, or I like this part, I like this part, and start to give us input to things that they don't really understand or the reasons why they're there. And it's on us to communicate with them why we did what we did. It's up to us to be transparent about what's important to the user. A story I like to relate to is one where I was working on a project specifically with a CEO of a company, and we had an interface that needed to go into dark mode for nighttime. And he thought it was important that the app went into dark mode at 11:30 because according to him that was his bedtime, right? And so while it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, it's on us to explain to people like that and people that make those comments why we can't do things in a certain way and why we have to do them in a way that complies with users and their needs. And this all comes down to communication that we have with them. And do you feel this will help you or would help you in any company or situation, or maybe not even you, but other designers? It's this will work at any company, big or small. Communication is all about relationships, which is what the book talks about. It's about seeing things through the eyes of our stakeholders, the eyes through the other people that we work with. We practice empathy a lot with users on a day-to-day basis, trying to understand their needs. We need to start doing this at home in our own jobs, in our own offices, with those around us. That's our job as UX, right? To kind of have empathy for the other person. We need to talk their language. If we're working with marketing people in business, we need to understand and see things through their eyes. Sometimes, the most difficult people we work with end up being our biggest supporters. I used to work with a guy that, he kept being very pessimistic and sometimes would make these negative suggestions or negative comments. And I almost thought is he doing it on purpose to derail this meeting? It wasn't until we had lunch together that I realized he had some of his own stresses at the company and at home. He had some issues going on with his family. And after we talked, something changed between the two of us. We started to build up this trust, and he ended up having, a lot of love for design and a lot of support for our design team. And I think this is also an important aspect that the book talks about, is we need to seek out those that are our biggest cheerleaders, our biggest supporters within a company, because they will help design and UX research and UX team grow in a very organic way at a company very, very quickly than if we didn't have those supporters in place. And so I think a lot of what the book hints at with the communication in describing design decisions is building and fostering those relationships with others. And next question here. So what will be the hardest part, you think, for designers reading this? What do you think will be most difficult for them? The hardest part for designers, I think the hardest part will be, dropping our egos at the door. We want to convey that we're experts in our subject matter, but we also want to be open to the possibility that we're wrong. we don't want to be the stereotypical designer that is, on high and throws down these design commandments for, peasants to obey, right? The book talks about leading with a yes, and makes comparisons to improv comedy, where the goal is to keep the flow going, keep the process, the ideations going. We need to stop saying no to people and accept feedback from them and be willing to accept criticism. This will make us much better designers and much more easier people to work with at the company, which I think is our goal. We want people to come to us as much as we can so we can get involved on projects and really convey and really advertise what UX can do for them.
And do you feel empowered with some of the strategies from the book?
Tom, I feel really empowered with some of the strategies. I think the biggest thing, the biggest strategy or point that the book tries to make is to make sure that everyone's aligned on a common goal, whether it's increasing conversion rates, click-throughs, account creation. What's the objective at hand that everyone's trying to meet? This is what we'll want to achieve with our stakeholders. And then when we do come to our design, there's a couple strategies we can do to get an agreement, right? We can show alternatives that we've looked at. We can show a comparison of before and after, kind of, how we're making this better. We can give our stakeholders a choice and allow them to provide input on the decision, allow them to weigh in. The book also talks about it's important to accept the idea that maybe, that we don't make a decision, right? We say, we don't have enough information at hand. Let's come back to this, and that might be the most efficient thing to do. So I think between all those things, the book outlines a number of strategies for designers to, articulate and get agreement on their decisions.
So it sounds like, I want to set things straight with our audience. It sounds like once you get agreement, you're pretty much set. You're ready to go.
Well, Tom, agreement's part of the goal. It's more of the beginning for the next phase. The book talks about, once we get agreement, let's say in our design review, we then need to follow up with next steps. We need to provide a debrief of what was discussed. Perhaps that's itemizing things in an email saying, this is what we've heard. I do that actually in a lot of design reviews I have, just to confirm that I'm remembering everything correctly and that everyone is seeing my take on what they said and whether that's correctly. Another thing the book talks about is following up with those individuals one-on-one. You'll often learn more when you get them sitting down face to face, getting more of their time. And I think this is important because it gives people a little bit more time to digest what they've heard and allows you to not only build a relationship with that person on an individual level, but also allows you to get more of their undivided attention before you move things forward to the next steps.
You make it sound so simple. For those of us out there that are practicing design day to day and they want to hear from someone like yourself, do you think it ever goes wrong? Do things ever go, not quite the way you would expect?
Oh no, Tom, I'd be lying to myself if I said I was always correct. Much of this can be related to building up our trust banks with people, and part of building up trust and growing these relationships means that we're authentic and we admit wrongdoing when we made a wrong decision. There's nothing worse than blaming someone else for our own faults. And sometimes we are wrong in what we do. We need to be confident and convey our sense of expertise, but we also need to have the honesty and to say that hey, I've made a mistake. And I think when we do that, it sets us up to be in a great place to be an honest leader, which is some of what this book talks about is leading as a good example for the team.
Last question. What were your thoughts on the last section in the book about vision? What were your, what did you think about that?
Tom, I thought the last section in the book on vision was really interesting. The book talks about that, we need to see ourselves as designers as the ones that are leading the vision for the company and for our teams. And I think this makes sense. We're talking to users on a day-to-day basis. We're pairing insights with trends. We're looking at the research, the data that's coming out, and we can kind of start to put two and two together. And this is really relevant in the book because the book is based on articulating design decisions, right? And how do you get to your goals? Well, you get there step by step by leading your teams with you. And you can't do that unless you tell them, why it is you're doing what you're doing. And so if we can communicate, if we can help convey a sense of empathy for our customers, and no pun intended with the book title, if we can articulate our design decisions, then we can get to that vision that we have. And I think that's where what this book is trying to do at the end of the day. It's helping us achieve that vision by making us much more efficient communicators.
That's great. No, that totally makes sense. So I want to say, thank you, thank you to Jonathan as taking his time here to talk to us today about the book. And so, we're looking forward to hearing more about, what comes out in this evolving field, and what insights and tips and tricks we can learn from experts like yourself. And I highly recommend this book. It sounds like it's made an impact, and I will continue to do so. So thank you very much. Until next time.